All right. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have this conversation today. Many of you know me by this point, but if you don't, my name is Delaney Monahan, and I'm the marketing strategist here at Synergy. And part of my job is having really cool conversations with different members of our staff and just exploring different topics that are relevant to some different segments of our Synergy audience and things that we're hearing and seeing from our clients and people that come through our doors. And so I am happy to be talking to one of our mental health therapists here today, Sam Godbout. She is a clinician here at Synergy that works with a wide variety of ages, but specifically today we're going to be talking about the age range of like young adult, some teenager conversation in there too, especially as it relates to like social media overwhelm. So, Sam, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Hi, well, my name is Samantha Godbout, either Samantha or Sam. I'm a clinician at Synergy. I had a lot of experience working in community mental health before going over to Synergy. Some of my areas of specialty are depression, anxiety, grief, and trauma. I also work with neurodivergent youth. I've been working in the field for quite a while, and it's exciting to be at Synergy. Definitely a great environment where we have yoga and we have massage and a lot of other wellness options.
Yeah, it's definitely different than like your typical, mental health practice or whatever. So yeah, we're really happy to have you as part of the team. Um, So yeah, in I guess I'll start there with like folks that you primarily work with, like with neurodivergent, like young adults or teens, like what are you sort of hearing in the rooms when it comes to like experiences that these people are having with social media overwhelm? You know, we all have our own relationship with social media. I know people that are not on certain apps for a variety of reasons. I know people that, like myself, that use the apps very heavily for work and then try to kind of keep it there and like have some boundaries with it. I know people that are on it all day, every day, especially as like teenagers and college students and just young adults. Like, there's definitely like an addictive factor there as well. So, just what are you kind of hearing in the rooms from people that are maybe a little like frustrated with social media or just feeling like overwhelmed or overstimulated?
A lot of people feeling stuck, kind of just feeling, burned out and relying on social media for fun. A lot of us coming home, either it's from school or work, and we'll sit down and we'll look at our phones and scroll. And a lot of folks are feeling like they're just getting stuck there, that they're spending a lot of time scrolling and it's not really doing much positive. They're looking for that funny video or that thing that's going to brighten their day a little bit, but they're not necessarily encountering that all the time. So it's sort of this loop that you get stuck in, that you're just scrolling and scrolling.
Yeah, 100%. And like it's such this like false sense for me anyway, and I'm sure you're hearing this from clients too, like it's such this like false sense of like achieving something or like being part of a community or like being like,
Mhm.
especially if you follow certain influencers or regular accounts like on TikTok or Instagram or something, you are seeing their content on a daily basis. Like you almost feel like they're like your friend or they're a part of your life or something. Meanwhile, you're sitting on your couch alone, like on a beautiful day or something, just scrolling. And also, like, there's something to be said about watching other people like be creative or do their jobs really well or like have a certain financial status or whatever, where you feel like you kind of associate that with yourself a little bit, and or you start comparing yourself, like you're going to this place for fun or relaxation or inspiration or whatever. Meanwhile, you end up walking away like more depressed because you are now comparing yourself, like they have this and I don't.
Yeah, and they're often we're comparing ourselves to as they say, someone else's highlight reel. We're not seeing their moments when they're just sitting on the couch watching a TV show. That's not what people are posting on social media. They're posting that they went somewhere, they did something. I think a lot of folks have also, commented that there's a lot of social disconnect since COVID-19, since lockdowns, and a lot of people relied on the internet for social contact. But a lot of us are realizing that it doesn't quite do the same thing as in-person social contact. We don't quite get the same benefit from it.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's this constant battle for me at least between like convenience and like meaningfulness of in-person interactions, like the energy exchange that happens when you're actually like in the room. Like I think about my yoga classes that I go to regularly, right? Like we offer a virtual option for the convenience factor, and there's a lot of other reasons too, like folks not having access to transportation or just whatever, like handicap issues or whatever. There's a lot of reasons to have virtual therapy, virtual yoga, but
Hmm.
oftentimes I find when I go to a yoga class in person, when I meet with my therapist in person, like that energetic exchange, I just walk away with like a completely different experience than I would have had if it was just over Zoom. Like you can't discount that, you know?
Yeah, it's a very different experience. And, when people are spending a lot of time on social media, there've been a lot of studies about how that impacts us. I found, there was a review of about 38 different studies that were done between 2010 and 2024 that they looked at all these studies to see what are the common themes that people are experiencing. When they're spending a lot of time on social media, and a lot of it is addiction to social media, feeling depressed, and disrupted circadian rhythms, sleep deprivation. Because often people are looking at their phones before bed and they're not going to sleep on time.
Yeah. When we were like preparing for this conversation, one of the most interesting things that I thought you said was comparing social media to like a slot machine at a casino, that
Yep.
it triggers the same like neurotransmitters or something in your brain. Talk about that a little bit.
It is the same mechanism. So there are a lot of articles out there about dopamine and how, when we're scrolling through social media, we're impacting, how dopamine is functioning in the brain in a way that is similar to addiction. But there's one kind of difference here, and that's social media, it reinforces or, rewards your behavior on an intermittent schedule. It's random. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just very intermittent. And another thing that works exactly like that is slot machines at casinos. And we've seen, people will sit for hours and hours pulling that lever, just waiting for the jackpot. That's really what we're doing when we're scrolling. We're looking for the good, funny thing or the interesting thing, and we don't know when it's going to come. But that kind of behavioral contingency, for some reason, it just really sticks with us. That is very addictive to us when we don't know when the reward is coming.
Yeah, like the anticipation of like, and I feel like with social media, it's like we don't even know what we're looking for necessarily. We're just looking for something to like make us feel better, whether it's by comparing ourselves to others and being like, oh, I have my life so much more together than that person, or the opposite of like, oh, they have such cool like clothes and cars and whatever, like I want to be like them, or just envisioning ourselves as if we were them. And I think the interesting thing too about that comparison is that for both of those mechanisms, like the slot machines and social media, like there is no end. Like these things are set up so that it's never going to like cut you off. Like the content will never run out. The slot machine will
Yeah.
never like not let you pull the lever. Like it's just endless, endless, endless. Like the algorithm will just keep feeding you content on this endless loop. So it's like designed to keep you um trapped, I guess. And which goes back to the first thing you said, that clients feel, right? Is they feel stuck.
Yeah. And it can be hard to get out of that loop where, people feel like they're just kind of stuck sitting in a chair looking at their phones. And often we're not always aware that there's a problem. We're not always aware that maybe we're spending too much time looking at those things. I actually looked at quite a few different studies that were out there, and there was some interesting things that I saw. Like one study from Turkey had found that people actually showed biological and physiological symptoms that, or psychological symptoms that are similar to addictions. There was another study that even showed that it was as addictive as nicotine, which is really interesting to think that social media could be that addictive.
Yeah, I get it. Like I get the um like even down to the like physical habit of it, of like having something in your hand. Like I'm someone that is probably addicted to social media, and it's like if I'm walking around, like if I don't have my phone in my hand, much like having like a cigarette in your hand or a vape in your hand or whatever,
Hmm.
I'm like, where is it, and like what am I supposed to have in my hand? Like there's such like
Hmm.
a tie-in with it. So I guess my next question is like, how do you know you have a problem? Like, how do
Yeah,
you know
it's a good
that you're
question.
like in this place of, I mean, I guess my guess would be like when it starts negatively affecting your life, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because right now, all the research is so new that, there really isn't an official assessment to tell you if you're addicted to social media. But, there are some key indicators that you might be doing what they call avoidance scrolling. You're scrolling to avoid doing other things in life. Because my gosh, it's so easy to just sit and scroll instead of doing the dishes or the laundry. It's way more fun too. But if you feel like you find yourself scrolling without even remembering that you picked up your phone, or you're using scrolling maybe to numb your feelings, to avoid anxiety or boredom, maybe you're using it to procrastinate. Hey, the floors need to be vacuumed. I don't feel like doing it. I'm gonna look at my phone. Phones are great for helping us procrastinate. If you're feeling worse about yourself or annoyed after you're looking at your phone, that's a good sign. And if you're feeling increased social anxiety, fatigue, any sort of discomfort when you're taking a break from your phone, that might be a sign that you're relying on it too much.
Yeah. For me, it's if I start getting to a place where I'm like opening the app, scrolling, closing the app, opening the app, scrolling, like this like repetitive, like to no end, like not even getting anything out of it necessarily anymore, is the fact where I'm like, okay, I need to put my phone down. I need to like walk away, like go outside, touch some grass. Like I need,
Yeah.
take a break. And like what conversations are you having with teenagers specifically around this? Because like I'm in my early 30s, I can remember a time when life wasn't like this, and I didn't
Yeah.
have this need to have this thing in my hand, or I wasn't as connected to people across the country through various accounts or whatever. Like how are is their experience any different, I guess, with like Gen Z, I guess, with like, or even Gen Alpha, where they have never known anything different?
It's interesting because I've found that, clients who are teenagers, young adults are kind of falling into the same traps as, us older folks, us, Gen X, millennials, that, it's a lot of the same things, except, they have an acknowledgement that they've grown up with this. And to some extent, I think young people are sometimes fascinated by what was the world like before we had these things, and what did people do? One kind of little mindfulness trick that I like to do, that I sometimes recommend to people, is just a good example of the kind of distress tolerance that we used to encounter often that we don't really encounter anymore. Say, for example, you have a doctor's appointment and you need to sit in the waiting room. Try to sit without using your phone for a little bit. Look around the room, observe. I guarantee that you'll feel like you're the most mindful person in the room because you might find that everyone else is looking at their phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it. It's so true. Or they're, yeah. I mean, I guarantee even I mean also like older folks are so like I mean people in like their 60s, 70s, 80s are oftentimes the most guilty of this too. They're like whole
Hmm.
they're like doing it too in the doctor's wait or the dentist waiting room or whatever. And I'm just like looking around like, oh gosh, we're all just like drinking the Kool-Aid. But um so I guess if you've gotten to this place where you need to, where you recognize it, it's a problem, you want to make some changes, you want to build like a healthier relationship with social media, where where should people start?
Well, limit setting is a good place to start. Just limiting how much time you're spending on social media. There are, different things that you can use digitally, like app timers or, keeping track of your screen time that can help you to set those limits just within your phone. But there are also some things you can do on your own, like planning structured activities. Planning something that involves not being on your phone, whether that's, maybe playing a sport or going out for a walk or, something that involves being in a group. But you could also just watch a movie and put your phone away the entire time. Give yourself that, 2 hour break. Um, a lot of it really is just practicing being present and replacing that time that you would spend scrolling with other activities that will benefit you more.
Yeah. I have gone as far as to I bought like they have like cell phone lock boxes that you
Mhm.
can like put your phone in the box and like you can set a code and like a timer or you can have somebody else like set a code and um because even I find that even if I like put timers on my apps that I use like one, I'll overwrite it and I will like if I really want to go on Instagram, I'm finding a way to get on Instagram, you know.
Mhm.
Or I will find something else that's like still on my phone to like scratch that itch, whether it's like going through my photos or like texting people or whatever. And it's just the thing that I keep getting back to. And it's like ironic because there's this whole genre on TikTok and Instagram too that you may or may not have seen about like nostalgia, about like the 90s
Mhm.
and like going back to a time when, you know, we weren't so like glued in digitally. And that's like ironic, right? That we're all like connecting over this on the thing, on the TikTok, you know, on the Instagram. But yeah, I think like physically putting it away, putting it in another room has been really helpful for me. And like trying to just like forget it, trying to like just do things with my hands. That's why like art and creativity is so important for me because it gets me doing things with my hands that are like tactile, that are real, that I can like is not in a screen in a fake, you know, world within an algorithm that's just like not tangible real life, you know?
Yeah. And the benefit of doing more artistic or creative activities is it also gives you a sense of accomplishment because you've created something. Um, and we don't really get that from social media.
Yeah. I mean, even folks that like do social media as a job, like myself or other people that, you know, this is a part of how you like make a living, there is not as great of a sense of accomplishment with like seeing a bunch of likes on a photo or seeing a bunch of views on a video versus making something with your hands and like hanging it up in your house and having it just exist purely like
Yeah.
enjoyment. I think that there's just like a key difference there that I think is really really important. Um, you talked a little bit about distress tolerance early on. I think that's a huge factor as to why people like run to their phone because it fills this like empty space. Like, I guess just talk about that a little bit more and like the difference between like distress tolerance and helping ourselves like regulate within the moment.
Yeah. So, distress tolerance and emotion regulation, they're very similar. Distress tolerance is more about either surviving crisis moments or, moments that involve distress. I love to use sitting in a waiting room as an example. because it's a very mild kind of distress, but it is a situation where we're forced to just sort of tolerate being there. Emotion regulation is more about managing your emotions, throughout the day, improving your well-being. Um, so, kind of one good way to remember it is, distress tolerance is more about surviving the storm, and emotion regulation is changing the weather. Um, if that makes sense. So, throughout the day, we might have different things that come up. Living in Massachusetts, we drive in traffic. We might have something that, we need to regulate ourselves. Maybe someone just cut us off, and we need to sort of get that point of calm so that we can think clearly and focus on what we need to do. So we might take a deep breath, or, we might kind of just take a minute to relax, and that would be regulating ourselves. Whereas distress tolerance would be more, you're stuck in the traffic jam and you can't go anywhere. And how do you sit with that? Distress tolerance is a lot of just sitting with things, and how do we cope with that?
Yeah.
Um,
Where
yeah.
so many of these addictive behaviors come in, right? Like when we think about alcohol use disorder or folks that use, drugs or whatever the addiction is, like, obviously we're talking about social media today, like it's used as just an opt out of that distress, right? It's just like, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. I'm immediately going to go to the thing that I know works in this moment that will get me out of this feeling into something different. It's not even necessarily better, right? Like if I open
Mhm.
Instagram and I see like, I don't know, like an ex-boyfriend got married or I don't know, like something like that's like, you're like, ugh, like whatever. Um,
Mhm.
it's not even necessarily better. It's just getting you out of the thing that you think you want to run away from, the feeling.
Yeah. It's to alleviate the distress of boredom. And often I think a lot of us, when we think about kids and the idea that it's healthy for kids to be bored, sometimes it's healthy for us adults to be bored because we need to figure out what to do and, what are our coping strategies to cope with that boredom.
Yeah. Yeah. I like crave that now just personally because we're just so busy all the time. And as a creative person, that boredom time is just so important for like my mind to go different places and think of different ideas and whatever, it's just, I think it's really, really important. Well, thank you for talking to me about this today. I think it's just a really interesting topic, and there's so much content out there about dealing with, social media addiction, dealing with doom scrolling, like how to approach this from multiple different angles. But I think talking about it from like an emotional regulation standpoint and a like distress tolerance standpoint is kind of a different interesting take. So I'm glad that we kind of went there today.
Excellent. Well, it was great talking to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, if you're at all interested in uh, potentially working with Sam or any number of our clinicians that we have as part of our team, if you kind of want to talk through this issue or anything you have going on in your life, really more, we obviously always suggest like a mental health therapist to help work through some of these things. So there's lots of information on our website on how to get matched with someone that is a good fit for you. So if that's of interest, just throwing that out there as well. Thanks again, Sam. This was fun.
Thanks.